Friday, Adult Beverage Friday, and we are live talking about the issues that I've had in 2 videos so far. So we're going to focus on today, and that is all the weird stuff going on in the network that no one seems to be talking about. And I'm being called a conspiracy theorist because nobody's talking about it, so you must be lying. So that's what we're going to talk about. Better Friday today for Hello Socratic Curiosity. Hello James Mason. Hello Eagle Swords. Hello Deep State. STNE, not to and to you. Kostekis. Natural Law. Angel, Louise. Vandal, Pill. Sayed Sabir, Boy Grim TV, J Dawes, Iron Man, Chastity, Red Light, Julio is first. So anyway, let me just speak to the naysayers, because the naysayers, it just bugs me because with the detail I put into my videos, you know that I research this very deeply. I don't come here and talk about conspiracy theories. Everything I talk about is factual. It's factual. So there's no like mysterious thing that I invent and it's I'm lying about or anything like that. It just boggles the mind when I see these comments. But I guess, the sheep, it's got to be talked about by certain parties that don't know what they're doing, and then only them are you going to listen. It's like me talking for years about, hey, the 3-letter agencies are doing this and that to you, and people will say, well, that's not true. Like, just to give you a typical one, I remember this so well. What's her name from the what's that The View, Whoopi Goldberg. So Whoopi Goldberg a few years back, or during 2016, around the time of the last election, went on The View and said, oh my gosh, our emails are being read, oh my gosh, this is this is crazy. Our emails are being read. It's like I'm just like doing a face palm. It's like, yeah, until you read it in the mainstream media, apparently it's not true. It's not happening. So yeah, if you're saying that what I'm saying about VPNs being blocked, certain VPNs being blocked last week is not true and that I made it up, then I can't help you because. I don't make this up. Hello, House Atonic. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, House Atonic. So anyway, I will review again with you what I did, so you understand that this is not something I was just talking about lightly. I spent a week researching this while it was happening. No one was researching it because they didn't know what was going on. It's kind of weird because, I do have the facility for doing a testing that, maybe the average person may not be able to do. One of the things that I have that is different is that I have servers in 13 cities, 13 locations around the world, 13 cities. I, of course, have a lot of subscribers to my services, so they also give me instant feedback. For example, if I push out a VPN profile, they can easily test it and come back to me and say it's working, it's not working, and now it's working, and so on. The other thing I'm able to do is connect from server to server from different locations. I'm also able to connect then from myself, from where I am, to every server and act as that server. And I'm able to do the test that you can do to do network testing. And for those that don't know what those are, one of them is MTR and the other one is iPerf. So if you're telling me that I don't know what I'm doing, then tell me what I should have done instead. If you have a better idea, because I was working already with the network operation center of the ISPs, and they couldn't figure it out. They certainly couldn't figure it out because it's not within their realm to figure out. What was happening is outside of their network. So if it's outside of your network, you have no reason to suspect. You do your test and say, well, my iPerf says it's fine. My MTR says, well, there's some, lost packets, but nothing serious. So there must be something wrong with your software. So that's the kind of stuff I got to hear. Well, I'm going to tell you very specifically what I did, what I tested, and what I suspect, and who I suspect to be, now that I have more information. I do have suspicions about, who's part of this. I don't know the why. I don't know the why this happened, why it stopped. It stopped. So, again, to review, the attack happened on about Tuesday morning. So I was already asleep. So, I'm going to guess, early wee hours of the morning on 2/2. So, probably no earlier than midnight of 2/1. So somewhere around 2/2, then something happened. Someone flipped the switch, because by morning, guys, which is the morning of 2/2, I woke up with hundreds of you upset that the VPN was not working on 2/2. I remember Vandal here. Where's Vandal? Vandal making a comment that we're in 56K territory like the old days. We're back to 56K modems, because that's the speed it was functioning at, 56K, and which is true. Exactly what was experienced, and I did not know what was going on. So what happened was on 2/2, February 2. I then connected to the servers and using the VPN, and sure enough, every server was slow. Every single one that was in America was slow. I connect to a server in Singapore or Sydney or Mumbai or London or Germany, one of my remote servers, and it was fine. There was no problem. By the way, I had no problem doing SSH, running websites, and doing things like that with any of my own servers. So there was no mystery there. I mean, it was all seemed functional. What was not functioning was just the VPN portion, and I did not know this. I searched for several days. It took me till Wednesday night to realize that there's something else going on. And then when I woke up the next morning, I did the test, and I just about screamed when I found out what was happening. I just about screamed. I said, what does that? Because who would have thought, this is the last thing I would have thought, that in America we would have been filtering out certain content. Now, some of you, I saw somebody make a comment here that I went to Discord and nobody's complaining about VPNs. Again, please be very specific here. I don't believe in experimentation. My facts are very specific. Okay? On 2.2.2.5, they blocked port 1194. Now, there are many VPNs that do not use 1194. In fact, within the same VPN company, some servers may be 1194 and some may not. So only those on 1194 were affected. That may have been only 25% of VPNs. Okay? Better test use TC dump to capture packets. TP trace to analyze, TC replay to replay packets. Yeah, but it's UDP though. So I don't know. We're talking UDP traffic here. So I don't know. I'd have to shift to TCP, but the traffic was UDP. So anyway, the specific thing that was happening was that when I logged into the server using the VPN, and I did a speed test without a VPN, for example, it was perfect, no problem. When I turn on the VPN, what was consistent, I could repeat this probably 100 times, was the upload speed was 0. And it kept giving something called socket error, meaning there was no connection on the upload. So some of the traffic that related to trying to make a connection on the upload side wasn't working. So the upload was being blocked. Okay, so because the upload was being blocked, it was very hard for anything else to function. So even if they just slow down the upload side, you basically shut down everything. So, but the strange thing was, I only discovered the slowdown only on one port, 1194, and they did not change that until Friday. So from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it was 1194. Now, how did I discover this? Overnight on Wednesday, I was started thinking about the problem, and I said, I bet you they're doing deep packet inspection. It was not my initial conclusion, but the reason I came to that conclusion was I switched ISP on Wednesday night. On Wednesday night, I set up a bunch of servers on a different ISP in totally different cities. Peaking a little bit. Let me cut it down even more. Okay, cutting down the volume even more. So that's when I said it's impossible to be set up with the servers in different cities. The only similar thing about these servers was that I was running the same version of Linux and I was running OpenVPN on them. There was no other software. It was such a clean install. It's a server with a few things, a few utilities on there, MTR, perf, iperf, OpenVPN, curl, a few little things like that, and that's it. Pretty simple installations. And it was so funny that it was consistent in all servers within the same ISP, different ISPs, different cities, and that's what just to tell you the cities that I used initially. So initially my servers were in New Jersey, in Dallas, in Toronto, and in Fremont, California, were the ones that were having problems. Then I set up new servers in Los Angeles, in Miami, and New York City. Completely different cities. The results were exactly the same. Upload 0. And I said, Zoc, that can't be. The probability of that being a network issue just went from 20% to 0. That is impossible. It doesn't work like that. So I said, you can't. It's not the server, not the ISP, not the network because the network was spread out. And yet international worked. What could be the reason? And then that's when I did the test. I switched on the morning of Thursday. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So on the 4th, the morning of the 4th, I switched ports. I said, let me try this. Let me set up a server that is not 1194. So I set it to 443. And then on another server, I set it to 1195, just to vary the test. So on one port, I did 443. Another server, I did 1195. And wow, it worked perfectly. I changed ports, worked perfectly. Suddenly I was spreading the new servers, the new profiles to my users and said, everything is working fine now. We figured out they were blocking 1194. That was on Thursday. By Thursday afternoon, I was spreading the VPN profiles by then. And somebody will say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You're making this up. It's like, don't be stupid. This is easy. This is the mere fact that everyone downloaded with a different port to 1195 or 443 on Thursday night. Obviously, it already worked. So I got past the throttle on Thursday night. Then it didn't stop. It did not stop. The next day, they started throttling 443, which is HTTPS. So my server that was on 443 was slow. The one on 1195 was not. And that's why what I said, suck. Is there any other sources? Who cares about the other sources? I just tested it. If they didn't test it, it's none of my business who tests what. I'm just telling you it was tested. Everyone's just like challenging me. It's like saying, well, it's not my business if they didn't test it. I gave even my ISPs the opportunity to say, what is going on? They said, nothing is going on. It was I who figured it out. I figured out it was 194. No one in Network Operations Center at the ISP figured it out. No one figured it out. I figured it out. 1194. Then they blocked 443 the next day, Friday. And when they blocked 443, I knew because one of my servers was 1195. I had a test server at 1195, and then the rest were at 443. And then by that day, I changed everyone to 993. So I changed all the profiles to 993, and they all worked. They still work. They still work then. Okay. So now I have them on different ones. So I no longer trust any single one. The point is to come here and say, well, how come nobody else is talking about it? I don't really care who's not talking about it or not. It's pretty black and white. I flipped the switch. It worked. I flipped the switch. It worked. So don't tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. It worked. I got around it. It worked. So if somebody's going to tell me, hey, you don't know what you're talking about, you didn't make it work, I made it work. Okay? Just to make it clear. What is the proof that it worked? Well, you got so many users of my VPN, many users of my VPN now agree that it worked on after I made that change on Friday. And there hasn't been a blockage of the same nature. There was a blockage on this was being talked about live. We had a live chat. Everyone was testing and contributing, and everyone knew this. So for someone to tell me, oh, you're making this up, or don't care. Don't care. The fact of the matter is, if your VPN was not on 1194 from Tuesday to Thursday, then you would not have been affected. If you were on 443 on Friday, you would have been affected, but it only lasted for half a day. Yes, I programmed in C++ and C for most of my career. So if somebody says, I don't know what I'm talking about, I was like, you must be CCP. You don't know. You're CCP, or maybe it's CPP, C++. So anyway, just trying to tell you that at that time, my ISP, which was Linode couldn't figure it out, and I blamed Linode. And the fact of the matter is, Linode was awesome. They actually helped me. They escalated it. They brought it up to network operations, and we plotted in a way that we can, and there was no problem. And we did some iPerf tests, and the iPerf test showed bandwidth of 500 megabits per second from server to server. So there was actually no network issues, even from point to point. Even when I connected one server to another server in a different location, Linode was running perfectly. The only issue was that somebody was actually blocking just a specific port. And we're going to talk about that. But anyway, after that experience, I actually took my servers out of Linode, and I said, wow, I did Linode as a service here. They're a good company, and they gave me good tech support, and so brought my servers back to Linode. Good company. That's all I can tell you. Is that just excellent people doing tech support, and they're just they're very responsive, and just very helpful. So if you want to use Linode, you run a web server, run a Nextcloud, run a Linux server, or even just do some playing, you can actually go to linode.com/RobBraxman and they'll give you $100 of credit for 2 months. So if you're interested in that, go to Linode. And yes, I'm back on Linode. And, Linode was sponsoring me since when I had 50,000 subs. And now we're at 230 some. 230 some subs, and they're still my sponsor. So anyway, Linode helped me, and it proved to me that it was not their fault. And truly, their performance of their servers was very fast. I really had nothing to complain about. I knew the problem was outside of their network. So the question now is, and this is the one I want to isolate right now, is clearly somebody was messing around with our networks last week, Monday to Friday, nationally. Saturday, Sunday, our local ISP Spectrum here was messing with our services. But on Monday to Friday, or Tuesday to Friday, that was definitely national. And so the question is, who was doing that? I told you a story in the video, and I want to repeat it so you understand the context here. But the Guardian wrote an article in it must be 5 years old now. I read it online, and I was talking about it in a live stream back then, but it's been a while. And what it was is it discussed how the three-letter agency, the one in Utah, the National Zucking Agency. Don't type it out; you'll get blocked automatically. Don't type it out. But the National Zucking Agency, which is part, by the way, is the keyword. That's a keyword. Keyword. If you say the actual letters, that's one of the keywords, and you pop up on their computer. So the National Zucking Agency, the way they do this is they want to intercept what goes on the internet. I told you about your email being exposed. Back in the old day, a lot of traffic was HTTP. Now it's HTTPS. Lot less of that is exposed. But back in the day, like 5 years ago, there was still a lot of traffic that was HTTP. A lot of traffic that was exposed in plain text, including email. Email's a little bit better now. A higher percentage of TLS, but still not guaranteed, and still a big chunk of traffic, I'm sure, is flowing in plain text. So all of that is captured at the peering stations of AT&T. Now, what is a peering station? So if you're a local cable company, obviously a lot of them are owned by Charter, Spectrum, and Comcast, but let's consider them as an individual company, each city. So each city provides internet with your local division of the cable company. Thank you, Bob Whittlefish. Pure specialist. Most DPI acts for commercial reasons. Unanswered for me. So anyway, on this Guardian article, it actually showed the actual buildings. There are 8 buildings in the U.S. where the internet is exchanged. Basically, each ISP needs to transport their traffic to a peering station. And what a peering station means, we share traffic. We don't charge each other traffic. We're peer-to-peer. We're all equal here. Okay? We just we pay a fixed amount to the network, and then the network splits it up, and we don't pay to run it through the backbone. So that's done by the peering stations. So they just contract with the peering I don't understand the financial agreement that relates to this, but the traffic is then sent to the peering stations. The peering stations then filter it out to the various backbones, and the backbone companies, to name a few, the ones that actually make the hardware and the links are Level 3, GTT, and CenturyLink. Now, if you are wondering what these are, if you do a MTR or trace route on your computer, you'll find all these servers in the middle, and you'll find you'll find those little domain names I'm talking about, GTT. A lot of what I see on my end here is a lot of GTT, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. So that's a problem. It's that by itself doesn't tell me much. So apparently a lot of whatever I do here in Spectrum, this is my cable office, then they funnel the traffic through, in my case, GTT, and then it goes out to wherever on a trunk somewhere, and that's how it's sent out. So, but the actual process is that a lot of the traffic apparently is handled by AT&T, because AT&T used to be Ma Bell, so they control a lot of the network back in the days, and I believe AT&T actually holds the contracts, and they actually then subcontract with GTT, Level 3, and CenturyLink. This is in the U.S. And then for outside traffic outside of the U.S., they have actually internet exchanges where they do something that peering stations do outside of the U.S. So those are called internet exchanges. So those occur around the world. So there's a bunch of exchanges all over, mostly on the borders of the United States, where all the fiber optic lines cross. So let's say they cross in Washington, D.C., and then there'll be a peering station there for international. But in the U.S., it's mostly controlled by AT&T and used to be controlled by MCI. MCI and AT&T used to control a lot of the peering links. AT&T, MCI was bought by Verizon, so whatever that one now, the MCI links is now owned by Verizon. Now, I don't know how much of this is still going on, but at least in the Guardian article back in the day, it seemed that like the three-letter agency, the National Zucking Agency, decided that they were going to use AT&T, which tells me that the traffic flows somehow partially through AT&T networks all around those peering stations. Otherwise, the National Zucking Agency wouldn't do that. So, the way that it worked, as described in the article, is that your traffic goes through AT&T, and then they do deep packet inspection to look at the traffic, and then they redirect the traffic or copy the traffic and redirect it to the National Zucking Agency based on some keywords. And then when they do that, they capture the IP address to see if it relates to international traffic, and in which case they do capture for sure. And then based on keywords, and that then goes and gets sent to another route, which I presume is to the Utah data center. Okay, this was in the article. I didn't write this. This is, some journalist wrote this. Obviously, this is Snowden's information initially, but this was independently researched by a reporter on The Guardian. Now, in hindsight, now let's look back now. This is 2021. In hindsight, I looked at, what deep inspection they were doing back 5 years ago or more, 5 years ago when the article was written. So they've been doing it for, let's say, a decade. What exactly was the three-letter agency doing back then? And then it turns out that the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, some years back, way back then, when this article was written, so it's around the same time, actually accused the National Zucking Agency, this was in the press, that the EFF accused the National Zucking Agency of using a machine called NARUS, N-A-R-U-S. So they were using deep packet inspection devices made by a company called NARUS, N-A-R-U-S. I thought they were using other brands like Blue Coat Systems or whatever. And it turns out that, because Blue Coat Systems was being used to do that in the Middle East somewhere. I think it was used in Syria. some Latin American countries. Blue Coat system was the deep packet inspection hardware that was being used. The Blue Coat systems originally was Israeli, if I recall, before they were purchased by evil company Symantec. Okay, so Symantec bought that evil company, and then Blue Coat Systems started running Symantec, and then Blue Coat became more evil. And I'll tell you about that in a second. It's an interesting story. Interesting story, and this is all real stuff. Okay, but this has nothing to do with this one. I thought that AT&T was using Blue Coat Systems, but no, they were using NARUS, N-A-R-U-S, or however you pronounce that. So NARUS, that's the hardware they were using. And that capability for deep packet inspection apparently was already brought out by the press, 6-7 years ago. So I didn't even know the brand. I didn't specifically look for it until I searched for AT&T NARUS, and there it was, the article. AT&T NARUS, and there it was, talking about exactly what I'm talking about, which is the deep packet inspection revealed by The Guardian, where they were doing keyword searches on the internet using deep packet inspection device called NARUS. So, if NARUS, owned by Boeing, now allowed licensing to Symantec, but bought by Broadcom. Yes, it's no. Come on. So if Symantec is using it, then that's Blue Coat Systems. So you're saying Blue Coat Systems was using NARUS, then it joins up to what I'm saying here. Okay. Because NARUS could be the hardware, but the company selling it could have been Blue Coat Systems. See, they're all connected here. Okay, yeah, Broadcom bought that, so let's see how much evil they have under Broadcom. So, yeah, Symantec lost a lot. So Symantec is lost company. So now, don't buy Symantec VPNs or antivirus. No, don't do that. I used to be afraid of mentioning company names because of what, I get threats. But Symantec is a very small company now compared to the old days. So, the kind of power that they had is no longer the case because, they got split up. So the current Symantec is just LifeLock, antivirus, and they've come up with a new one, Symantec VPN. Don't ever get Symantec VPN. Seriously, guys. I mean, I see that advertised in some of these, radio stations and things. And it's like Symantec VPN. Suck. Don't ever trust that company. Don't ever trust that company. There's so much distrust because of that Blue Coat Systems connection, and I'll talk to you about that in a second here. So let me tell you what happened. So just a little bit of history here with Blue Coat Systems back in the day. What happened, guys, was Blue Coat Systems was a separate company. It was bought for X billion by Symantec, and then the CEO of Blue Coat Systems became the CEO of Symantec, and that's when the evil really started. One of the things that they do to read your HTTPS traffic, this is one of the tricks that is just so awful, that it just boggles the mind how much evil they can do. One of the tricks they can do to read your HTTPS traffic is to fake the HTTPS certificate. In other words, instead of using the official certificate for Facebook.com and Google.com, what they did was create a fake certificate for Google.com. What this means is that if you're in Saudi Arabia, I'm picking a country out of the blue here. I have no idea if they contract with Blue Coat Systems, but what they do is they then present you with a fake certificate for Google.com, and you can't do this today anymore, by the way. This was an old trick, but you can't do it anymore because Google found out. So Google sanctioned Symantec, and that's one of the reasons Symantec is Google killed Symantec. If you didn't know that story, Google killed Symantec. So anyway, what happened was the foreign country, with the dictatorship government or whatever, non-freedom of speech government, said we're gonna examine everyone's traffic on Facebook and Google or whatever. And the way they do that is by issuing a fake certificate authority. In this case, the certificate authority was Blue Coat Systems. And then Blue Coat Systems authorized certificates from for Google and so on. Google was the one that was specifically noted, which means that if you are the certificate authority, you can decrypt. You have the key. You have the private key. You can decrypt all the content on HTTPS that passes through your server. So what they did was all the people in Saudi Arabia, as an example only, would funnel their data to a proxy server where it had a fake certificate, and then from there they redirected the traffic through the proxy to the actual Google, Facebook, whatever. But in the middle, they're able to do what is called a man-in-the-middle attack, where they can decrypt HTTPS. This is a very common procedure. You can do this. Corporate servers do this. If you're in your corporation, they do this automatically. They install something in your computer to make it a certificate authority. They can authorize any certificate. In this case, though, what happened was Symantec owned Blue Coat Systems. Symantec also owned Verizon. Verizon, the company, the number one company that did certificates, the first company that did certificates in the world. They owned it. So they assigned Blue Coat Systems as a sub certificate. What do you call this? Forget the name, but the next level down, CA, Certificate Authority, and which was validated by the main certificate authority, which was Verizon. So they could validate anything. They said, "Yep, that's a true certificate," even though it's not true. And when Google caught this, then they basically said to Symantec, "Well, we're going to kill you on the browser." So they blocked Symantec certificates on the Chrome browser, and then Firefox did it, and Safari did it, and now Symantec then lost the business, sold their Verizon to Komodo, I believe. So now they're out of the business. Symantec no longer is in the certificate business, and they can't do the stuff that Blue Coat Systems was doing. But they can still force you to install something on your computer if you are in a corporate situation. In that case, they can insert traffic and do traffic analysis direct on HTTPS. This is one of the tools that they use in addition to deep packet inspection. So deep packet inspection is what I've been talking about here. Doing this allows them to actually see everything you post on Facebook, Google, whatever, even though you supposedly are using TLS encryption. So are you guys aware of this? I mean, this stuff is common sense to me. I knew this from before. I talk about this all the time. And then somebody says to me, "You don't know what you're talking about." It's like, it's idiotic, Yeah, I know how to do this. I do this myself. One of the reasons I hate antivirus, because I have to come up with a new video that tells you not to use an antivirus, is the antivirus will actually load a fake Zocking certificate authority on your computer so they can watch the traffic under the excuse that they're actually stopping what are called phishing attacks, when in reality it can be used by anyone since they have the Zocking certificate with the Zocking private key, which means anyone can observe your traffic. So who knows this? Oh, this Rob Braxton guy, he doesn't know anything. So we're going to go to Discord. We're going to go talk about it on Reddit. Talk to all the experts there. And apparently I know nothing. Apparently I know nothing. Now, I may not know the current models and current devices and all that. Some of my knowledge is out of date, so it's theoretical. Somebody would say, "No, that's not the exact model. It's model A1C 213-156 off the nearest device." I have no idea. I don't buy these things. Okay? I just know in principle how it works. I know how it works. So, where can you put the deep packet inspection devices from nearest Blue Coat Systems, whatever? Where can you put this? Well, obviously you put it at the incoming traffic into the trunks. So, in case you didn't know how this works, the most of the internet runs on fiber optics that crisscross the country in this fiber optic lines, and they then join up into what are called multiplexers. Multiplexers. So there's a connection that takes the multiplexers from the fiber optic and then joins it to Ethernet. So there's a electrical to fiber to optical conversion. So the conversion device is called a multiplexer. Now what's interesting is for high-speed use, they actually have pluggable modules. I've seen some of these. There's pictures of them, kind of like Stingray has a picture. Well, there's a picture of these multiplexers on the internet where you can plug these little modules in there. These little secret modules. And you plug in the module and it can do deep packet inspection or whatever, or however many of these devices they can put in there. And they can then watch whatever they want to watch and redirect the traffic elsewhere. So it could be remotely controlled. These are remotely controlled devices. You don't actually have to sit there. Nobody has to sit there. This can all be programmed from a central point. So basically you just plug in a device and then you go elsewhere. Hash fingerprints can be hacked and HTTP strip to get rid of. Okay, so thank you, Caleb. Thank you. So yeah, so that's one of the I forgot what I was saying. So that's how the entry point is to the internet. They go into the multiplexer. So the problem is that where is the multiplexer? Let's say that the multiplexers with these peering station where they hook up into the fiber trunk, let's say that's done at these AT&T peering stations. Apparently they're done in these secret locked rooms in like in AT&T they're in rooms without windows, and they're in these locked rooms. And so the traffic goes in there and goes to miniature little module computers, high-speed computers, that somebody says, oh, these are FPGA ASIC, kind of like little NVIDIA cards. And yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter what the hardware is. The point is, they're dedicated hardware that used just for the single purpose of managing large chunks of data. So apparently, deep packet inspection was already within the capability of AT&T since the beginning, since I mentioned in my videos way back 5 years ago that they were doing this thing that, sending traffic to the National Zucking Agency. So therefore, it makes sense to assume, thank you, Jade Finch-Seen, it makes sense to assume that the traffic was being filtered at AT&T. They're a central enough point. Their deep packet inspection is probably not so useful now because a lot of the internet traffic in the last few years is being encrypted. So they're probably being upset right now, the National Zucking Agency, which is the contracted them. They're probably upset that the traffic, they say this all the time. The Five Eyes say too much encryption, we can't see anything. So no traffic security cams are not private unless you have the right security cams. So certainly not the one from Amazon, which is Ring. Don't do that. So anyway, the issue is that AT&T already had the capability for deep packet inspection, and those devices are probably useless because the traffic is encrypted. And so now maybe they're testing something new and say, okay, let's use these devices now for doing deep packet inspection. Let's test with 1194. So I don't think AES itself is a lie, but it's how it's implemented that it's a problem. AES is actually okay because that's symmetric encryption. It's asymmetric encryption that is vulnerable. It's called TLS. How many qubits do they have? What is your opinion about firewalls on Android phones? Firewalls on Android phones, if you ask security experts, are not firewalling much. What AV do you use? None. Steve, don't Zucking use any AV. Watch my video. I'm going to make a new video. Currently, encryption is controlled by VPN servers to be at AES GCM 256. We don't set it at the client side anymore. It's set at the server. So, I hope you know, the point of what I'm saying here is just for people who don't understand that this is a very complex world here, very complex world. If we were in a you know, a repressive government like Saudi Arabia, where they don't have VPNs because they're banned from doing that, or China, you know, you wouldn't be doubting me at all. But here in America, I actually never thought they would actually implement some of that here, because we supposedly have freedom of speech. So now, I would have thought encryption was freedom of speech, but apparently not. Apparently not. So they didn't ban all VPNs because they were only banning 1194, and then they banned 443, which, you know, if you ban 443 and 1194, you're likely going to hit last week the bulk of the VPNs. A lot of VPNs, in my view, could be half and half. You know, using 1194 and not. So half the people may not have been affected and did not know it. They would have been affected on Friday. That's when they turn on the deep packet inspection. So, but it was brief enough. It was only for a few hours, so they may not have realized it. And, you know, and so they'll just write it off. People at the VPN companies doing tech support will say, well, you know, internet was slow. But the problem with that excuse is that the internet was not slow. The internet was very fast on all of those days. All of last week, the internet was fast. It was only slow for certain kinds of traffic. So the argument that nothing was affected, it just can't be. So anyway, you know, I'm trying to just give you the backup to, you know, to some of my knowledge to what I'm talking about, and you know, why I believe what I believe, so to make sure you understand that I'm not just inventing this. You know, this is not theory. You know, when you do a test like switch to 1194, switch it off to 1195, and all this, I mean, these are very real tests. I mean, there's no explanation you can give me that can validate why it did not work on 1194 and worked on 1195. I have no explanation other than the fact that it was deep packet inspection and such tools. It doesn't have to be specifically deep packet inspection. There are many ways to stop traffic. You can stop it at the source by IP source, IP target, but that's difficult because you have to build a database of that, and that can change. So that's not a good way of doing it. You can't do it by saying, let's find all the VPN servers and block them at the VPN servers, because VPN servers can be fired up. Like, you know, if somebody did that to me, I can fire up a new set of VPN servers within the day. So you can't just say we're going to do it like that. So they had to do it in kind of a surreptitious way that wasn't too obvious and made people dig. So nobody was digging around, and somebody was saying that, how come I'm the only one that ever told you this? How come I'm the only one that ever told you this? Well, I don't have any explanation for you. You know, nobody spent the time to research. Don't come to me and say that it must not be true because nobody else said so. Don't come to me and say that. Instead, what you come to me and say, yes, X person tested it and you were wrong. Okay, let's compare the test, because my test was very specific. Okay, very specific. No one can claim that that my information is wrong. The test was very specific, repeatable. In fact, since I changed every profile back and forth, I knew it was repeatable everywhere in the world. And I was able to fix all of it just by changing ports. Okay, so if you're coming and saying, well, we don't trust this guy, like, it's conspiracy theory. Well, believe that if you want. Okay, believe that if you want. If you want to, want to believe that somehow I don't know what I'm talking about, I wonder what your good source is. Oh, it has to be in mainstream media. If that's your source, then sorry. Okay. Oh, this was not on CNN, so it can't have been true. So did I contact any press person to tell them this? No, I was too busy. Do I care about talking to any press person? No. So yes. So the only reality is that I tested it. No one else tested it. If they didn't test it, the window was gone. The window was only from 2.2 to 2.5. If you didn't test it within 2.2 to 2.5, then too late. There's nothing to test now. I'll let you know when it happens again. At the moment, if you weren't there on 2.2 and 2.5, you can't go backtrack it and test it. It's too late. Okay, so anyway, it just irritated me when somebody would say, "Oh, this guy is a liar. He made this up because it's not noted anywhere." And I'm talking on all these, forums, and nobody's saying anything. And it's like, okay, how can I bypass port forwarding block from my ISP? Port forwarding is done at your NAT. Port forwarding is done at the NAT. If you're getting port forwarding blocked from your ISP, that means they're putting you in a subNAT. You're being put on a NAT, and then you have your own NAT. Thank you, Jianju. Thank you, Rue. Thank you, Rue. I gotta check shadow socks. I mean, I know OBS proxy. Gotta check shadow socks. Gotta check some of these and see which one's the best. We now have to really be thinking about this. I have a lot of experience with Tor. I make Tor routers, so I've been doing Tor routing for a long time. So I know it intimately. I was using a different port for Tor routing. I wasn't using the standard port during these events last week, which was 2050 is the public port. I wasn't using that. So it may be that my Tor routers were not affected because I wasn't using the standard port. So I didn't know if Tor browsers were working. But my Tor routers are using a different port, so it may have been immune from that. So couldn't know because I didn't have time to test. There was only so much time in the day, and since the attack stopped, it's very difficult to test further. Need a peer-to-peer tool to test different scenarios of traffic, to test such filtering, DPI, test scenarios, etc. TTEE. TTEEE. Yeah, I did. So I have multiple servers. I did iPerf tests, local to remote, remote to remote, different cities, local city. I need to write a little software to do port-to-port tests instead of relying on a VPN. I need to know if it's actually DPI, deep packet inspection or not. Thank you, Rue. I need to, it's very easy to write, but of course, during the attack, I didn't have time to write code. But I can write code to do a test of blocking like this in the future. It's, I just need some quiet time, then I can write it, and then I can test. So the next time I can load my own software. I can write a little Python program that can check port to port and then, track the traffic by port and see if there's any disruptions at the port by port level. I could do that, but I didn't have time for this. It was just too much panic. Why do we use standard ports for anything? Wouldn't it be better to randomize? You cannot do that, Randy Williams, because an application has to reserve a port so it knows what the traffic is. So, for example, SSH comes on port 22. If it did not, how does it reserved the port. The whole idea to fix port is you reserve the port as a server. Now, as a client, you can make a port as you go. So computers make ports outgoing to be anything. You just say, this is a free port, I'm going to use it. But a server has to have fixed ports, like 443, port 80 for HTTP, port 993 for IMAP, port 465 for SMTP, and all that. These are fixed ports because the server has to listen and reserve the slot. It can't reserve all of them. It takes too much resources. So it has to reserve the slot. A code has to actually listen there. It's called sockets programming. So when you do sockets programming, it has to loop and listen to a port and say, is there traffic coming in on port 465? If so, act on it. That's how it works. Okay, that's the way the internet works. So you can't just easily randomize that without redesigning how this port system works. And the port system is actually very efficient. So if you redesign it, you may, which you can. The problem is if you redesign the method instead of ports, use some other method by labeling. Like for example, on Windows and so on, you can use name pipes instead of a port. So on Windows, you can use ports, or on Windows you can use what is called named pipes. So when you're doing programming in C, we just use named pipes. It's Windows only. It's Windows only. It's not even Linux. So so you don't have to use ports necessarily. It's just the technology that's most efficient on Linux computers. Does the word Zuck have to do with Zuckerberg? Yes. Zuckerberg is the biggest stealer of your data. It's the biggest evil on the internet when it comes to stealing data. So I invented the word "what the Zuck" way back. Goodness, it's been a long time now, 6-7 years ago, and it's on Urban Dictionary, and it's attributed to me because I was the one who used it and got many people to use it. And what the Zuck is it's an Urban Dictionary now. So if you go to Urban Dictionary and upvote the definition for what the Zuck, since that's me. I didn't put it on there, somebody else did. But the person who put it on Urban Dictionary credited me. I sent Urban Dictionary many, they ignored me, but then they took it from somebody else who referred to me. So so what the Zuck. So I also own the domain whatthezuck.net. So just so you know. Zuck your board. Yeah. So anyway, in terms of level of evil, I believe the evil of Facebook is the biggest evil ever because it has your real identity. So you can actually use Google safely if you don't use your identity. So if you make a fake name on Google, which you can, make a fake, Google account, put a burner phone for your 2FA, you can go around and use Google. You can't do that on Facebook. So in terms of, even though Google's reach is even bigger than Facebook, the problem is that the evil, is only with Facebook. Facebook is the one that's tracking MAC addresses. Facebook is the one that says what computers are near you, and let me track those too, not just you, but all the computers around you. Now Google doesn't do that. So Google is not, it's not the same level of evil as Facebook does, even though they say do not do evil or whatever the mantra was, and they want to do it now. Do you all prefer no ads, OVPN profiles, or regular? The no ads one goes to Pi-hole. So obviously there's the no ads is able to filter a lot of the browser fingerprinting, because Pi-hole is blocking a lot of the fingerprint companies. So if you go use no ads, what happens is a lot of the fingerprinting will be disabled. So that's why it's better to use that. Requiring a phone number, your real name, a phone. That's one of the biggest evils. Was when these companies said we're going to do 2FA using your phone number. We need another way of 2FA, not a phone number. You can use YubiKey, you can use Google Authenticator, even though it's Google, which is the same as Authy. So Authy and Google Authenticator are the same. They have the same logic, so you can use either one. So if somebody says, is Google Authenticator spying on you? No, because it's just an open source mass computation. It's, Google Authenticator doesn't do much. It does math. The same math that is done by Authy. If you do not like Google Authenticator, you don't like Authy, you can write your own because the code is public. So I use myself on my app, I accept passwords logging in by using Google Authenticator or Authy. They're the same. So it's called TOTP, it's time-based one-time protocol, one-time password. Time-based one-time password. TOTP. Would you adjust your audio? It isn't sharp and clear. Is it too low, too high? Somebody complained my audio was too low, but too high, so I lowered it. So now you're saying it's too low? Okay, I just want to know what to adjust it to. Do you think China will attack the USA? Now, obviously I'm not fond of China, but the good news is that historically China has not attacked anyone. So that's the good news. They don't have any history of that. Usually they're the ones attacked. And now they're huge. Audio is breaking up slightly. Audio was clipping, meaning it's too loud. No, I was shouting, because I'm like upset with those people calling me a liar. If somebody was calling me a liar, then it will. Is it garbled right now? Because the volume is low. But I guess when I'm energetic, it's going to go up. So, so the question being raised now by me is I already told you that AT&T already had the deep packet inspection hardware because they apparently had Narus installed, and Narus is the one that was used for deep packet inspection. So given that, then likely they're the ones that did the blocking of port 1194 last week. I don't have any proof of this, but they did have the equipment, so therefore one could make the assumption that might as well use what was in existence rather than say, they installed new equipment at level 3 and they were doing the blocking at level 3. Partly the reason I would say this is that I don't think my issue was necessarily at the level of level 3 CenturyLink GTT. It could have been GTT. Here's why. If I crisscross the country with my test, I was doing a test across country, and I was going through a lot of routers. And if you go to a lot of routers, chances are you're going to come across, CenturyLink GTT. In fact, there's a lot of GTT on my servers. But the issue is that I tested a server here in LA. I tested a server in LA, and the server was very close to me. And there were not that many route jumps. So if they were doing upload packet filtering, it had to have been done very closely. So for that reason, I wish they kept attacking, and then I can go find out some more. But They were attacking a server that was just in the same city. So now it's a different ISP, so it's not spectrum to spectrum, and so it had to pass through a peering station, but it had to have gone through a local peering station. Okay, so that's why typically a local peering station is going to be AT&T. So that's why I'm going to guess that it was right at the entry point to the backbone. Entry point, not at the far end of it. Google uses Verint for network analysis, according to their website. Verint was converse. I mean, why is it that all these security systems are all built by Israelis? Checkpoint systems, blue coat systems, all this, like all these spy companies. There's another one, a scary company that is breaking into Signal. And what's the name of that company? Somebody can tell me, but it's another Israeli company that their job is to work for the state. So Israel is becoming to be like a center point here of companies that build state systems for the state to run censorship, intercept traffic, read encrypted materials. They're done at the state level. They're all centralized over in Israel. So somebody there, because the Israeli government obviously has to track everything that happens in Israel, so they're now exporting that technology to us, the rest of the world. Do we have SDN setups using Open Daylight, OpenVPN that I can check metrics from? I don't know. I'm not sure what that's going to tell you. You can't do, you can only do a speed test. That's what you have locally. You don't have the capability to run other testing because you need to control the server. Signal is not broken. The attack on Signal is on a phone. What it is that the company can break and read your content on a phone. So meaning they have to get your phone, break the password off the phone, and then read the Signal content through there. So, which is not the same issue. So, the bigger question that I'm going to leave you with here, the bigger question I will leave you is, why were they throttling VPNs and then stopped? Why did they Mr. Smith, all internet is the same as long as you use a VPN. Otherwise, it's the same as anything else. If they throttled last week, not if, but they obviously did throttle last week, but they throttled and then stopped. Thank you, Anasta Anam. You should do a show explanation. So slides help explain all this and how it works for people who have no clue. Well, they're like, the problem is there's different levels of privacy. There's privacy from the state, privacy from a third party, MAGFT, and privacy from, third party attackers like doxers and whoever else. So, and they're all different. So some of you may not value one threat to the other. Some of you may not care about government threats. But the problem is, as a citizen wanting freedom of speech, I want my windows closed to my internet traffic. And the way I do that is by using a VPN and using TLS and things like that. And even TLS, I just told you, can be broken. So this is one of the scary things. TLS, HTTPS, can be broken. And one of the ways to break it is to load a antivirus. So there you go. So it's a big concern to me that, you know, we ignored did some different threat levels and say, well, it's a government threat. I don't need to be involved with that. I only care about threats from Apple and Google, MAGA FT, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, and I don't need to care about threats from anyone else. You really have to consider all, because some of them share information, and all of them in conjunction with each other suppress our freedom. So if somebody creates a database and shares it among themselves, it's going to be really, really bad. So yes, HTTPS can be broken. Now I have a app on Android called MITM. What is it? What's the name of my app? The MITM app. Catch MITM. It's on Android, and that can detect if somebody's playing around with your HTTPS. Okay, that's in the app Catch MITM that I made. It's on Android. So that's an example. So if you're, let's say, in a foreign country and you want to say, is somebody listening to my traffic, you can use that app and it will clearly tell you if somebody's listening to your traffic. So maybe we'll talk about that in another video. Okay? You missed my first post. I was saying I'm a senior network engineer for a very large corporation. I'd be happy to look at our metrics to compare against what you saw. Well, I'm not sure what your metrics are going to show in the corporate traffic, since you have to actually isolate the port. It's not going to show anything, since the way deep packet inspection works, they take a sliver of the internet, which is the upload port, block that port, and it's going to be indistinguishable from the rest of the traffic. It's too small to be noticed. Because, upload traffic is very small to begin with. When you're doing watching a video right now, your only upload traffic is what you're typing in your comment section. That's the only upload traffic you have. Just see how tiny that is. You're watching a video right now, and you're watching 1080p or 720. You're taking in gigabytes of data in the video, and you're sending only a few bytes when you type a comment. Only when you type a comment. That's the only upload. So that's not, if you're not looking for this, it's pretty hard to detect this. So the only way to detect this is to actually write custom software that can actually check by port. By port. You are using, you're using IPsec, right, for corporate use, because IPsec is a different signature. Yeah, you tell me, if you were using port 1194, you might have seen some changes in traffic. But since IPsec is not the same as OpenVPN, the signature would have been the same. They may not have blocked. Who knows if they blocked IPsec or not? IHAM, Mr. H. So do you understand what I'm saying here? Somebody says, if this were true, then all the corporate VPNs would have been busted last week. No, because that's IPsec. Completely different signature. Okay, OpenVPN is what commercial VPNs use. The rest use the old IPsec, which is old Microsoft standard that we've been using from the 80s. So we were all using IPsec for a long time. Okay, so completely different protocol. Well, there's censorship in many countries, yes. So you need to kind of like use various tricks to get out of that. Okay. So yes, Ron Paul. So it'll be interesting to compare. See, what happened was when I searched for a 1194, and I was able to evade it by changing the port to 1195, as an example. The next day I changed to 443, and then they blocked that, and 443 obviously is mixed traffic. So deep packet inspection should be able to identify between IPsec and OpenVPN traffic. They're very different signatures. So the question is would they have done the same deep packet inspection in 1194? Well, obviously yes. So 1194 in itself may not have been the trigger. It may have been 1194 with a deep packet inspection showing a signature of OpenVPN. But the other thing that I don't know is what is the signature. If you compress your VPN traffic, does that affect it? Compressed versus non-compressed? Were they looking only at the headers? I don't know. That's the problem. Is I can't. You got to have an insider to tell you, because I don't know what they were checking for. I can only theorize that part. All I know is the effects of it, but exactly how it worked, I don't know. So if somebody said, "Well, I know, I control the machine and I know exactly how it works," well, you might know. I'm not. I don't acknowledge knowing to that detail, how they did the signature. I just know you can. You build up enough history watching traffic in OpenVPN and IPsec, and over time, you'll notice heuristics that will tell you. Heuristics is the AI will tell you the pattern. And say, oh, OpenVPN has this particular header, or maybe a specific fragment size, and so on. So maybe the packet is constructed a certain way. Maybe the packets are, varied sizes, fixed sizes. Who knows? I can't really tell you. So I was playing with it, and I didn't have enough time to play with it. Like, what would be the results if you modified using compression, using modifying the fragment sizes, modifying headers in some way? I didn't have time to test all that because it died. Okay. By the way, guys, some of you may not know this, but on Odyssey.com, ODYSEE.com, which is library, that I am now the number 19th creator on there. I mean, that's amazing. Just to show you, there's actually nobody in tech above me. Most of the people above me were, let's see, so I'm number 19 on Odyssey. Number 16 is Donald Trump. I'm only 3 steps away. There's only 2 creators between me and Donald Trump's channel. Okay, and a lot of them are, Bitcoin and other things sponsored directly by library channels. So I'm like ranked. I passed everyone that was doing the Linux ones, all the Linux channels, all of them. I passed them all. I passed some fairly famous people on Odyssey. So and anyone talking about tech, yeah, they're way past. They're way past now. The largest tech channel on there was Naomi Brockwell, and I passed her a couple weeks ago. So yeah, so she's way behind now. So she took my old spot. So yeah, so that's really fascinating. How it went on that channel. It's just amazing how many people are watching there and growing. And the fact that I have 39,000 followers on Library, which is obviously a fraction of the size of YouTube, but considering the size of the channel, that means a good number of people on Library, Odyssey, are subscribed to me. So I really, really appreciate that. So that is like super awesome. What the fuck, Odyssey? Odyssey is spelled ODYSEE.com. ODYSEE.com. So it's like a different spelling of the word Odyssey. So it's amazing. It's just amazing how the channel's worked out for me. So that's the only thank you, Honeybee Creations. I'm really surprised because I'm only on 2 platforms actively now. I kind of haven't been back to Twitter, so, and Periscope is shutting down, so I'm really just on 2 channels, which is YouTube and Odyssey. Although somebody's automatically posting me on BitChute, but I'm not doing that. So whoever's doing it on BitChute, I'm not purposely posting on BitChute, but apparently it's there. Try Rumble. I don't know. It's so much work to change platforms, and I can't talk to you anyway on these platforms. So, join us on my platform. My platform is BraxMe. I don't have time to do the cameras right now. I'm so backlogged right now with the business on the phones that trying to add products when we can't even meet the demand on the phone side. The phone demand is really, clearly I'm only satisfying, a small proportion of the demand. So, as many phones that I issue, and by the way, I'm such a big account now at the post office. I was looking at our volume, and it's like, the post office knows us. They see us walking in. They know, oh, you have boxes. You have tons of boxes. Okay? So a lot of people, because there's so much business going on, that even the post office knows that we don't know them and they know us just because, oh, you're a big account. So that's how much business is flowing, and it's we are a big account. We ship boxes and boxes of things every day. We cannot keep up with the demand. For your de-Googled model, are you sticking with the 2019 model for a while? We stick with a model we can buy in volume. So right now it's a price thing, because people want expensive phones. We have them, Pixel 4s. They want less expensive phones, and we go down the list: Pixel 3, Pixel 1 XL. That's the cheapest one. On the newer ones, the ones I was getting was a G7, a Moto G7 River XT 1962-1. I'm not getting a lot of stock of that, so it sounds to me like we're going to have to cut down on Moto G7 XT 1962-1. The importance of that model was that it worked with Verizon, but for Verizon, I think the better solution is a Pixel. It's much more reliable for Verizon. Pixel. So Pixel 3 or Pixel 1, Pixel XL for Verizon, and then the model that we can get a lot of is the G7 Plus. So we can get a lot of those brand new. So that's kind of a late 2019 model. Moto G7 Plus. We can get those in volume brand new. So that's what, I'll stock some more of that. But that only works on T-Mobile, AT&T. Can Google listen to me through the phone's microphone? Well, I have I don't think so. Thanks. But if you have the Google phone, we put an off switch in there that can stop an app from listening on the mic. Levendi. I'm working hard, Levendi. I mean, you think it's like, it's a business. I got employees. So it's a business. So, if you don't want the business to succeed, don't support the business. Obviously, the business is succeeding because we provide something that people need. So, what do you think about Starlight satellite internet? It's very interesting, Joe Michaels. I don't know if the speed is good enough for many people, but I am interested in it. If it's portable, I would be interested in that. At one point it would have been nice to put a Starlink on a boat, but right now my boat has fast internet from cable company, so I wired my boat with fast internet. So I don't need a Starlink. But if you're on in the water on a cruise, which I don't normally do any cruising because I got to do videos here. Can you de-Google a Tesla 3? Tesla does not like Google. Tesla does not even support Google Android car. Tesla does not like Google. There's nothing Google on an Android. So there's nothing Google there's nothing Google on a Tesla. I love making money. You love making money. I'm working very, very hard, Levendi. That's all I can tell you. I'm working very, very hard, and it's incredible the kind of work. And sometimes you don't want this kind of frenzy because it means I've been working since the channel exploded here in 2021. I've been working basically 7 days a week, 16-hour days since the beginning of the year. I have had no rest. Nothing. I can't sit down and do anything else. It's just answering your questions, supporting you, doing videos. I have not been able to do anything else, and it's very stressful. So it's a lot of work to do this. A lot of work, and I need to hire more people to take the load. Need to hire more people. So thank you, Joe. Thank you, JVS H-Town. Thank you. Thank you, Liz Gaspari. I'm a computer challenged, super paranoid in my business. What kind of phone service to get so I can chat with overseas clients? Signal. Just use a business line though, not a personal phone number. Use a business, have a separate phone number to use for Signal, which is more of a business line. And Signal has voice over IP. Signal for client, and everyone can use Signal, so it's easy. So family, Signal is good for family. I don't like it with people I don't know because then I got to reveal a phone number. And of course the problem of the contact list. So lately I've been looking at it and seeing all the notifications of all the people I do not like to know about going on Signal just because they know my phone number. Yes, Brian, you have to, be physically here. The work is physical. Somebody has to take the actual phones and process them. So is there privacy in forwarding calls from a cell phone to a landline? All phone calls can be tracked, but it depends who the threat is from. Governments can, of course, track you, but anybody else, no. So if your threat is a government, there's nothing you can do. If the threat is not a government, you don't really need to care if you move your SIM card. It's more about what number do you use for two-factor authentication, which identifies you. So have other phone numbers ready. If you can't afford to buy one, use a Google Voice. So how did I do Google Voice, guys? I've said this in another video, and I'm running out of time, so I'll close with this. The way I did this was I set up a Google Voice account here in the US. You can't do it elsewhere. Google Voice using a temporary SIM card to validate the account, and then I threw the SIM card away. Then I removed two-factor authentication using that SIM card, and then I just forwarded the number to whatever phone I have. Okay, so there's no longer a two-factor authentication tied to a phone number. What I do for two-factor authentication on Google Voice is I use an app. I have an old iPhone with no SIM card that gets notifications for Google Voice. That's what I use. It doesn't leave the house. It's just used for Google Voice notifications. And that's how I did that. I didn't have to pay extra for a line since I don't need to use the line except for the temporary use of the SIM card, which cost me $10. Okay? So there's no encryption, much encryption on a cell phone. So use Signal where you have voice over IP encryption. Okay? Signal has a P2P alternative. Session is a different product, IHAM, which I discussed in my video on messaging apps. Session has a lot of potential. It's a little rough around the edges right now, but I like the way that's designed. If they just clean up the interface and clean up the little issues there, Session is going to be one of the safest possible apps you can use. Sprint is part T-Mobile, yes. Google will not let me authenticate using my Google Voice number. Yes, that's true. That's why you need another one. You can also use a paid service. So Google allows authentication by Google app. So once you set up an account with a fake phone number, meaning a burner SIM card, you can later use Google apps to do the authentication rather than a phone number. And that's what I use, and that's what works. So I use an app to validate 2FA on Google rather than the phone number. Okay? And so, yes, they're not going to take Google Voice since they are Google Voice. Okay? No Verizon. Forget Blackberries. Go the Google phone. Okay. We had a lot of BYODs, bring your own device, on my store for people because I didn't have stock of phones. So, I got, crates and crates of phones to be done. That was bring your own device. So you brought your own phones, and we finally got through most of them. We just have a few left, but the bulk of them have been processed for up to this week. So most of the phones are done. So, that was a huge backlog. So now that we got that done, we'll shift back to producing normal phones, and we'll have stocks of phones this weekend. I already put some there. I haven't put Pixel 4 in there yet, but we have Pixel 3s. We're not going to run out of Pixel 3s. We have a lot of those. Okay, we have Pixel XLs, Moto G7-6, and dash ones, G7-1s, and G7 Plus, a few of those. Okay, so anyway, thank you for watching, guys, and I hope you appreciate what I tell you here. This is not a fake channel. This is not fake news. This is a tech channel, so tech is scientifically based. For those of you who don't know this, I did study medicine. If you study medicine, then you're a scientist. If you're a scientist, then you deal with science. You don't deal with fake stuff. So we deal with experimentation. We do testing. We verified our findings because programming is pretty black and white. Programming is black and white. Okay, in fact, medicine is not black and white, but programming is black and white because there's only one alternative. In medicine, there's only many possibilities. So because of that, I am not here. You cannot listen to me and expect that I'm going to be telling you things that are too theoretical. The only times I would be theorizing if I knew roughly what it is, but I don't know the detail. Then I'll theorize the detail, but not the big picture. The big picture is not theorized. Okay? Well, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for watching. And I don't think I'm going to get a rest this weekend, but I'm going to try to now that things are a little quiet from the VPN side. And maybe next week we'll talk more detail about the VPN router. A lot of you are interested in that and want to know details about how that works. If it's something you should use. And I'm surprised by the interest of it. I mean, to be honest, I'm shocked at how many people. It's a bestseller. It sells more than any phone. So we sell a lot of Brax routers. It's a very good product and it works. But it does require some technology, and we'll go through that. So we'll talk about that perhaps next week. Okay, my brain is not huge. I just have a lot of experience. Okay, I've been doing this for a while. Okay, I've been doing this for a while. When you're my age, then you've done everything. So, okay. Thank you very much. Good night.